Testing. 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 Testing.
Good ear.
How are you?
Yes, it was.
Last night, something, some of it away. Chris. That was nice.
Fall is in the air today. Fall is in the air today.
It should be.
Feels
It's
like
September 21st.
right on time.
You know, I felt it was a changing of the season. I get up, how are you? So I could do something. Yeah, I do need to be able to right words with it. Some days I come back early, but the walkers have to do this. Yes, and that is this. But I can always say. Yes, we don't. Over there. Oh, you look warm. It's warm. Yeah, it's warm. But I thought it was gonna be chilly that day. It's not chilly in here. It's chilly outside. Hi. Are you doing good? How are you? I'm good. I'm always good. I know you are. I am. I don't know why I asked. Did you have a nice birthday? I did. Good. It's still a birthday. Good, yeah. I'm gonna celebrate. I'm gonna celebrate it, and then it'll be my after birthday. Well, my God. It's not after my birthday. It was the Sunday. Oh, I'm sorry I missed it. Oh, that's okay. No, it is. I didn't. If I had missed it, then I'd have been. Yeah, that's so. It's really most important if I don't miss it. Oh, goodness gracious, thanks. So is he doing? Yeah, well, coursework. Yeah, I get to, yeah, I'm doing coursework. Are you doing Sudoku? Yeah, I do that in the paper. Yeah. That's right. It can, sometimes it's logical and sometimes it just doesn't make sense to me if I can't get it done. Absolutely. Get some, let me know. I'm not going to get everybody's having trouble from that. They got a new machine. I don't know where that is. It's still not working. Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful, Artie. I tried to get her somebody to do
Good morning.
Okay, I'm not.
Over here.
So I know I'm coming early, and I'm so surprised. On your own. So, and I share. Yeah, two. Well, one's her. No, they're not even. Mine is short here. Mine is part.
Oh, yes.
We need one more mic for one for Dan and one for John.
Let's do that. Hold this for a second.
Oh, yes. I always want that. Oh, yeah, I know.
Test. Test 1, 2. Test 3. One, two. Test. Testing. 1, 2. Test 3, 4. Test. 1, 2. Test. Testing. 1, 2.
No, I think we'll be gone by the time we get there.
Yeah. Oh, you have walking mics. Do you want me to hold one for you?
Um,
Are you going to walk around?
Yeah.
I'll cover this side. You want to cover that side?
You can do that.
Oh, he can do it too?
Yeah, you can do two.
Either way.
Okay, okay, then I can give one, two.
Yeah, he and I can do it. And then you can run around if there's an issue.
I'll be here.
'Cause I can't fix an issue, but I can talk.
I'll be here on standby.
I'm gonna put a couple more chairs out just for you.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I need that many chairs.
Good morning. Good. How are you this morning? I think this gentleman right here. You're welcome.
Make sure it's working because they don't work in here often. Even though it's on.
You're really close.
There's my friend Sharon.
That's the challenge.
I'm a gentleman from Boise.
You know what? I think I may have met you because my husband and I came and did a tour of your facility.
Okay,
Because our kids live
okay.
there.
It is
And are
Ogus.
there any stores around it anymore now
So they
yet?
built out 11 stores around us.
Good morning, everybody.
Construction,
Vincent, this on? Yeah, it's on.
restaurants and things like that.
All right, good morning, everybody. How are you? Good to see you all. Vincent's cranking up the volume. There you go. Now I hope you can hear me. So, well, good morning, everybody. Such a great turnout. We're bringing in more chairs to make sure that everybody has a seat. I'm Dan Ogus. A lot of you know me. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Human Good. Actually, in another 10 days, I will be celebrating my 28th year with the organization. So I am super happy to be here. I wish it was under different circumstances, but I do love to come in this community at every opportunity I get. I love to see the residents and I really love to see the team members. I'm here. I hear that today is Team Member Appreciation Day and there's ice cream being served this afternoon. And my friend, colleague, and boss, John Cochrane, has never seen a thing of ice cream that he does not enjoy. So anyway, John and I are going to be up here, but I'm going to introduce John, and then we're going to take a second. We're also going to introduce Judd for those of you who haven't met Judd. But let me bring up my friend John. John.
Well, thank you, Dan. And thank you for that greeting. I appreciate that. As Dan said, I'm very glad to be here as well. I appreciate your being here. Some of you saw I was starting to walk around the room and I didn't realize it was 10 o'clock. I didn't get to say hello to everybody, but I will do that afterwards. I've been doing this work for 30 years. I've been working for 40 years. I've been working in this field for 30, and I've been in this job for 14. And in the course of 30 years in this career, I have learned a few things. I've had some successes and I've had some misses. Anybody else have that in their career? And one of the things I have learned, and tell me if you learned the same thing, and I learned this in high school with my father. When you screw up, you acknowledge you screwed up, and you apologize. Now, I learned that I say in high school because I was sitting with my father after I had exercised one particularly some poor judgment in high school, as high school kids often do. And my father was a wonderful, loving dad, and he approached things in a really loving, wonderful way with me. And he was sitting down, we were talking about something I had done and the impact it had had. And I was trying to explain it away and I was droning on and on. And finally he looked at me and he said, "Son, you're not going to change what happened. You can't change the impact of what happened and go back and change the past. So stop trying to do that. Simply acknowledge that you did something wrong, say you're sorry, and talk about how you're going to make it better and move forward. Because that is all you can do." I know well, it's a start. See, I knew this would be an interactive session, and that's okay. I know the last couple of weeks have been very tough on this community. And when I look at the change that was made and how it was handled, our communication was exceptionally poor around this event, from soup to nuts. We just missed again and again on simple stuff and stuff that we usually handle well, and we just totally missed it. And I want you to know I understand that. Dan understands that. And I apologize for the extra anxiety this has caused this community. I recognize that the mistakes we made added to the discomfort and the anxiety around this transition. These transitions are always terribly difficult for people. And as many of you have pointed out to me in private emails, and again, as I was working around the room, you've commented to me how much affection you had for Bradley. how much you genuinely liked him, loved him, and how much care you had for Bradley and he had for you. And I want you to know, we acknowledge that. I see that. And I had the same affection for Bradley. I also liked and like him to this day. I've been in touch with Bradley. I can't see him this time, but the next time I'm here, we will get together. We'll have a meal. We'll talk. And I know how much he meant to all of you. And that is one of the important things we want in this relationship. Bradley worked hard to build a real sense of community. And you see it this morning. We see it in the reaction to his departure. We see it in the reaction to how we mismanaged the communication around that. And again, I want to acknowledge that, acknowledge we fell short, and acknowledge that one thing Bradley was superb at was building great relationships and building a sense of community and trust. And I will just speak personally about one thing. Bradley and I had many conversations over the years. And one of the things that we had a lot of conversations about was our work on the Inclusion Council. Inclusion is one of our core values as a company. And it's something that Bradley, outside of just the corporate commitment to, is something Bradley was personally very invested in. And we talked about that a lot. And what I loved about my interactions with Bradley as it related to inclusion is he wasn't committed to this because he was woke or because it was politically correct or because it was politically expedient. He was committed to this work because he understood that it lay at the foundation of building a strong and genuine sense of loving community. And so he worked very hard to make sure that this community and our company was welcoming and safe and embracing of all people who walk through its doors. And I've got to tell you, he wrote me just yesterday about this work. And he was talking about our inclusion work and the commitment, and he was praising our commitment as a company to this work and talking about how much it mattered to him. And I just want to point out that that was one of the things that I think Bradley did exceptionally well, is built a tremendous sense of loving community. And as I walked in, talked with many of you this morning, at least on this half of the room, that's what I heard. He was great at building loving community. And I want you to know how committed we are to continuing that work. That inclusion work was important to Bradley. It is important to me. It is important to this company. And that work and that commitment will continue. And I want you to know that. So what do we do moving forward? Well, one thing we can do is we will commit to dramatically improving our communication about what we're doing, how we're moving forward, what changes you can expect to see and not expect to see. You will see a stronger presence from all of us in leadership. I will be here physically on a much more regular basis. So you'll have a chance to interact with me. And we will do a far better job of keeping you in the loop with respect to how we're moving this community forward. I know you're frustrated that we can't share a lot of details around people's departures. There are a lot of reasons for that. I can go into some of those if you want. I'm not sure that's necessarily helpful, but I want you to know that we are committed to rebuilding trust, to restoring the relationship, and to ensuring that you know how much respect we have for each of you and for this community and for your team members. And one of the ways we're starting that, and I was talking with Linda and Jana this morning, we're talking about the team and how they're responding and supporting one another. And I so appreciate how your team has stepped up to embrace one another and embrace this community. I think you've all met Judd Severance, who is our interim executive director. Judd, have you all met Judd? You've all met Judd. You have not all met Judd. Well, now you're all going to meet Judd. Judd, come on up to the front of the room. Judd is one of our superstar EDs. He is from Boise. And if you haven't met him yet, I'm actually shocked because you will. You know, when this transition occurred and Dan and I were talking about the fact that we needed someone to come in and help us rebuild trust and to help orient the community forward and get us back on the right track. We both had the first obvious name for that, and it was Judd. And we thought, I wonder if Judd would be willing to step up and do this. So we called Judd, and immediately Judd's reaction is, I will do what's needed, and I know exactly what you need, and I will step in and fill that role. Judd, we are delighted that you are here. Thank you. I promise you, for those of you who have not had a chance to get to know Judd, he really is a loving, welcoming, interactive, present person. So you will see a lot of him in the days and weeks ahead. So with that, Dan, you want to add anything? And then we'll.
Thanks, John, and thanks for those words. I appreciate it. And when Judd's not here, he'll make sure it's posted that who the manager on duty is, so no one will ever have a question as to who's in charge. Judd's committed to be here during the week, every week. I think he's gonna be here on Saturday this week as well, but he does have a family, so he does have to go home to Boise to maintain his relationship with his wife. So we wanna make sure that happens. So Judd, thank you again. I think you'll really enjoy having Judd here. Just a word about process. So again, I get criticized, and I've gotten criticized throughout my career for waiting too long when we have to make transitions. I'm not saying that is the case here, but I take it very, very seriously, very seriously. And I had a mentor previously who said, and if it ever feels good, it's time to leave. And I would tell you, it never has felt good. And it's not getting better in my role. Sometimes I have to be part of very, very difficult decisions. Like John said, we can't share all the details, but I don't take it lightly. And I will tell you that Human Good as a whole always tries to lean in, tries to make sure if someone does need to depart, that they have a soft landing so they can transition into their next role. I work very hard at that. The organization works very hard at that. Those are the hardest days that we have as an organization. So I want you to know that moving forward, we have a position posted through social media, through our recruiting processes, through our trade association. A couple of things I want to promise you. One is we're going to work with you, with the CAB folks. Thank you for being here, Eric, Jody, and other CAB members. We really appreciate you being here. That's Community Advisory Board, the Residents Council. As we vet candidates and we get close to having finalists, we're going to be asking Flo. Where are you, Flo? There you are, way back there. We're going to be asking Flo to put together a little committee so that residents have an opportunity to meet our final candidates. Also with the Community Advisory Board, we're going to make sure that happens. But we're going to make sure it's the right person, and it's the right person for you for the next chapter. We're not going to bring in someone who's not going to be a good fit for the organization, for the community. May take a month, may take 3 months, but Judd has been very generous to say he'll be here as long as we need him to be here. So he'll keep you apprised. He's very communicative. So he walks around a lot. So you'll be seeing a lot of him. Ask him a question. If you have an issue or a concern or a problem, go to Judd. He will work with you on it. He will try to get it resolved. He's pretty good at what he does. So we appreciate you being here. So with that, John and I will take some questions. Who has a question for us? Yes, sir.
Will you be paying the moving expenses for Judd to come down here and become, I'm sorry, will Human Good be paying the moving expenses for Judd to come down here and be the new Bradley?
Will we pay those moving expenses? If you can convince Judd to leave Idaho to come here full time, we'll pay for his moving expenses. We'll even give him a raise. Yes, ma'am.
I will personally drive the truck.
You mentioned your commitment to inclusivity, and I wondered, what does that mean to you guys?
And I'm sorry, for inclusivity, do you mean, did you mention that when you were talking about the process?
You did.
You did. You said we're committed to inclusivity.
You're talking about the inclusivity in the process of hiring a new executive director?
It was before
Or-
that.
Oh, it's John, the inclusion, that's yours.
You know, we can each get our own mic. Our commitment to inclusion is about a genuine sense of safety, welcome, and belonging for all of our residents, all of our team members, all of our family members, and all of our guests. And what that means to me is that people should feel safe and welcomed in bringing their whole authentic self into this community and know that they will be embraced and supported and protected in doing so. And that's what we're committed to.
Thank you. And I know that Bradley believed that too. And that's why when someone from the LGBTQ community approached him and said that they did not feel safe coming out in this community, he contacted an organization in Palo Alto, Las Avenidas. And then another resident said that they were uncomfortable because they had heard people saying, we don't want those LGBT people here at the terraces. And he put on a wonderful presentation yesterday. I wish there were more than 12 people there, but it was about inclusivity. That was the whole message, about this being a safe place for everybody. So,
and it needs to be a safe place for everyone. We are utterly committed to that. I think where you see pockets that are less welcoming, that does not represent this community as a whole. I am confident of that. Bradley was very devoted to this. We had conversations around various residents who reached out to him. And one of the things I genuinely loved about Bradley is he was able to approach this work in such a genuine, open way that was comfortable for people to raise uncomfortable issues, that was non-judgmental, that was not political, and that he listened to people exceptionally well. And the work he did to bring SAGE and other organizations to support our LGBTQ community was really powerful in helping to move the needle. And he and I talked a lot about some of those individual conversations he had with residents. I knew this work was important to him. He knew this work was important to me and to this organization and to this community. And he did that exceptionally well. That work is going to continue. I can promise that. Yeah, so please raise your hand when you have a question, and then Judd is running around with a microphone.
To me, inclusion also includes communication. And I didn't hear you mention that. Perhaps the corporation needs to redefine what they mean by inclusion. There was a huge breakdown in communication, and there's never been, to my mind, a great one between the residents and corporate offices. It's always corporate is always corporate. It's those guys. So perhaps you could redefine communication to inclusion to include open, honest communication, please.
Totally agree with you. And I appreciate that comment. Yes, we're absolutely committed to that.
You're talking about what a wonderful person Bradley is. And we all agree with you, but I have no idea why he isn't here. And if you feel you've made a mistake, as you say you have, bring him back.
I appreciate the sentiment.
Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And I need to.
Well, I hope you understand we're not at liberty for lots of reasons, including preserving the dignity of people who don't work for this organization to speak to specific reasons around someone's departure. I would say my apologies for poor communications around how we handle this transition.
So to continue, if you understand all the positives of what Bradley has contributed, it seems to me that you should be able to solve any problems you had with him by meeting with him, by sorting out your differences. And so I think it's really important that you do that. And also you're leaving us with some really important issues here that are up in the air and unworked on and uncommunicated as seems to be the pattern. One of them is our dining room. And we don't know anything about what's happening there. One of them is the remodeling of the Galleria. None of us have been really informed about that, except a couple of people. And the other problem that has was brought to me by somebody who is not able to come for health reasons, that the transition process to memory care and to assisted living gets bollocksed up because there's not enough room for people to go. And there are a lot of people out there waiting to go in and no solution in sight.
So thank you for raising those concerns. You packed a lot into that. I won't be able to address all of it other than to say that, and I don't want to address this comment to Bradley because I can't make specific comments about Bradley's employment relationship with the company. We work very hard with all of our team members to resource and guide and help people to be successful. And I will say that having worked in this field and in others, both in for-profit and not-for-profit, we go an extra mile compared to our for-profit counterparts. That I can tell you for sure. As to the communications and the work that you're talking about, the Galleria project, I believe, is in permitting. So that is moving forward. Judd will handle communications on these projects going forward. I think you'll hear a lot more about how those are moving forward, what the timeline is.
There has been no presentation to the residents about what the Galleria is or could be.
So to say it is in permitting without the residents having any information about what it is not satisfactory.
And thank you for that comment. You're right. And, again, we can't share why we make transitions. But as I said earlier, we stretch very, very far to make sure to preserve people's employment. And people who are in this room who work for this organization will share that. But sometimes things occur that cannot change, that forces us to make a decision that we're not happy with. But we try to exercise every opportunity. Unfortunately, we can't share the details without the permission of the person who has left the organization. We're not permitted to do so. Even if someone's ill, which Bradley is not, even if someone is ill, we cannot share that information. But to your point about the Galleria and about those projects, we're going to make sure that you hear about all of it. Judd is here, and you're hearing that from John, and you're hearing that from me. We will make sure that all those projects are clearly communicated to you. We make an assumption that that's happening in the communities. We expect the executive directors to communicate with the residents about everything they possibly can, to be very, very clear before we move forward on anything. In this case, clearly that didn't happen, but we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that quickly.
We did have a meeting set up in this conference room to share that information with the residents.
Well,
Dan, this is Jody.
hey, Jody.
I want everyone to know that I'm on the Campus Master Plan Committee. Our board initiated that Campus Master Plan many years ago. I'm sorry. I'm on the Campus Master Plan Committee. I am Jody Smith. I'm on your advisory board, and I was chair for many years when we initiated the Campus Master Plan, and I'm on the Master Plan Committee, along with several other individuals. The presentation to present to the residents was actually going to be done today, but this current situation came in the way. We recognize that you are desperate for information, and we are going to be presenting that to you. So we will be working closely with Judd, the committee, in order to get that presentation to you to outline the history of the Campus Master Plan, what has been accomplished to date, what has occurred with the Galleria remodel, and you will have the opportunity to listen to that, to see it, and give input. So we ask for your patience. We were ready to do that when this situation occurred. So thank you.
When is this going to occur? Give us a time frame.
The question was, when is this going to occur? Can you give us a timeline?
I think Judd and Jody are going to work out the timeline for the
Yes.
meeting it'll be, you know, I would ask that you give them a couple of weeks for Judd to get his feet wet here and to work with Jody in that committee, and we can get that schedule in the next couple of weeks for sure.
That's correct. Judd and I will be working immediately on this to get a presentation together. The presentation was going to be a multi-person presentation. The executive director, I was going to present part of it. One of the residents on the committee was going to present part of it, and the designer was going to present part of it. So it will be a multifocal presentation, giving you the information that you need. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, Doris.
We appreciate the thought that you're going to bring this to the residents. Will there be an opportunity for any changes at all from what you're presenting after you've told the residents? In other words, do they have the right for any input, or have you already sent this off for the planning committee of the city?
Well, I can answer part of that, and then Jody, you can just chime in. We haven't selected a contractor yet that I was told. I asked this morning to make sure that understood. The plans that went into the city were an overall concept plan. We're not going to move forward until we have reasonable agreement, meaning if we ask people to vote on any project ever to get 100% people, so we don't ask for votes, but we do ask for feedback. Jody, Judd, Vincent back there are open to feedback, and we want to make sure that if we need to make changes, we'll make changes to it. We're not in any kind of final planning.
I want to assure you that we are in conceptual design right now. Anyone who knows construction knows that you start with the conceptual design. Then as you move through the planning and approval process and hire a contractor, then you do construction documents. Those construction documents have not been created yet. So there is room for change. I have to also reassure you that the concept that you will see in our presentation is beautiful. I've been through a lot of design in my life, and this is a beautiful design. I'm confident that most of you are going to really approve of this, but we will listen to everything that you have to say. We're committed to that.
The question was the future of the solar, and I'm going to can you answer it, Judd?
I can.
Okay, but before Judd answers that, the other thing, just so you know about the project, is one of the discussions that Judd's going to be having with you to be prepared is we have two choices. We could start it in the last quarter of this year, but that puts it in the middle of the holidays, or we could start it in January. So I'm not asking for the feedback now, but just for you to think about, Judd's going to be asking you for that feedback in the next couple of weeks. Do we start it during the holiday time, which is not my favorite, but if you say, yeah, we want to move forward as quickly as possible, perhaps that's the direction we go, or we look at a January 2024 start to move forward with it. But you'll be hearing about that probably at that meeting, but that is a decision that also has to be made, and that's made locally. That's not made at the human good level. So, and then solar.
Solar, yes. And just for point of clarity, Dan was talking about the Galleria project, not solar starting next year. Solar itself is actually, it was paused. It is now back underway. Vincent and I just had a conversation yesterday and the crew is back. So that's underway again.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Someone give her a mic.
Right behind you.
I would like to hear a commitment on the part of the executives that the next person that's chosen to be our executive director has every support, every bit of training, every bit of communication, every bit of feedback, so that we don't suffer this kind of situation. It's apparent to me that what Bradley did or didn't do was a part of not proper training, because Bradley would have done whatever he had to do in order to help us. And I'm just distressed that there's been 10 years of my being here. I have seen 3 executive directors go quietly or not quietly, or a disaster like this one. And I don't want to see another one. I really don't want to see another one. There are a lot of fragile people here.
And I want to say, yes, we will make that commitment to you 100%. You have that commitment from me. You have that commitment from John. You have that commitment from the leadership team. You have that commitment from us that will make sure that the executive director and all the leadership team here has the tools. We provide them, but we're going to keep a very close eye to make sure that that person has the tools. But I do want to respond to your comment. So in 10 years, 3 executive directors have left. 1 executive director left before Human Good was Human Good. It was Abhow. We cannot speak to that because we weren't part of it. We have no idea. In my career, which has spanned more than a quarter century doing this work, there's only been a handful of executive director transitions that have been involuntary, number 1. Number 2 is the second person you're talking about was promoted out of here because of the fabulous work that he did. Again, we can't talk, but the reason why he's no longer with the organization is completely legitimate. And he ended up resigning ultimately, but it was completely legitimate. Again, we cannot speak about it, but we have to have that. We have to build that trust between us that we don't make these decisions lightly at all. But we are going to make sure that you have the support. We're going to make sure that we're providing you with the leadership and the communication so that you understand. We try to work, particularly in the background, to make sure that if someone's performance is not meeting the required performance, we work with them and we continue to work with them. The worst thing for us, turnover as an organization is tough, but turnover at the community level is very, very tough on you. And for that, we apologize. And we try to be careful about how we hire, and we try to be very, very careful about transitions. And we work very hard to do that. Judd, how long have you been with us now?
Almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years as an executive director with us. And that's what we want to see. And that's what we strive towards. But I do hear you, and you do have our commitment. We're going to make sure whoever that person is, and we're going to find the right person. And you'll be able to meet that person. At least a group of you will be able to meet that person as we go through the process. We're going to make sure that they meet the requirements of the job and that they are perfect fit for Los Gatos. But I do appreciate your comments. Other questions?
That was fast.
Yeah, well, Bradley cared about us and we care about Bradley, even though he is no longer here. And we need the reassurance that he is continued to be taken care of. He has a family. He's been a fine person. Is he going to be having insurance to help his family? Is he going to be having some kind of remuneration that will get him through looking for another position? Because obviously he is going to have to get another position.
And as
is he going to get a good recommendation from you? What is going to happen along that line?
As much as I can share, again, I can't share anything about someone's family or their personal benefits. But what I will tell you, as I said at the beginning, we lose sleep over these decisions when they occur. And I will tell you that if this was the last time I'd ever have to be involved in one of these decisions, I would be so happy. But it probably won't in my career. But I assure you of this, we do the best we can to make sure that everybody has a soft landing, they have a transition plan, and they have the ability to take care of their family during this transitional time. We're very successful at that. And I will say, I'm very proud of the way the organization handles this part of it. I know we can't communicate exactly what the package is, but we always make sure that people have a soft landing, always. So, and in this case, we made sure that he had a soft landing. Other questions? Yes, sir, in the back.
Reaction is personal. When I found out about Bradley's departure, I looked on LinkedIn. It's for residents who don't know, it's part of the social media, and it's a billboard where professional executives can post their resumes and other things. And then I looked at the regional vice president's LinkedIn presence. That's communication activity for some people who might be considering moving here. They'd like to see what the organization has to offer. I was really happy when I looked at Judd's LinkedIn presence because he has some good accomplishments. I wasn't in that same state when I looked at the regional vice president, who has some information, but it's not confidence building. So I would ask that you look at the regional vice president's posts on LinkedIn and other key executives to build confidence and to use a communication channel that residents might use or wannabe residents might use. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's good feedback for us. Some of us are very active on LinkedIn. Some of us are less active, but we're going to make sure, we try to make sure that people have good profiles and have good connections. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. My partner here spends even more time than me. Other questions?
Bradley always cared for the whole organization here, which include, he cared very much for the team members. And I find lots of team members now being very disturbed. And we cannot leave because we are golden prisoners, but they can leave because the work market here is very, very good for them. Are you going to address them and assure them that they will have someone who cares for them as Bradley cared for them?
Absolutely. And John wants to make comments. He can make comments on this as well. But we're going to make sure, one of the reasons why we brought Judd here, you're going to see that Judd cares. He's very affable. He believes in the residents, but he also very much believes in the team members as we do. We need team members. If we don't have team members, we can't have residents. Now, we don't consider our residents prisoners. We consider our residents residents. And so, but our job is to make sure that we provide you with the best staff that we possibly can in the organization. And sometimes things happen. Sometimes people leave acutely, sometimes we can explain it. And sometimes it's really hard for us to get in front of people and share confidential information. But I know I keep saying the same thing, but we should have communicated this much better. And I've heard it from many of you, and I've heard it from many board members. But we still had to make a very difficult decision. And it was a hard decision, but unfortunately it was a decision that had to be made. And again, I wish we could share more. And with other departures that have occurred as well, we would be in tremendous legal trouble. Us would be in tremendous legal trouble if we shared that information. And our chief legal officer is in the back of the room, but she's just here for lunch. She's not here as a lawyer today, Bethany Gassemi. So if you've not met Bethany, she is really a wonderful member of our team, and she works very, very hard to protect the residents of this organization, as well as the team members of this organization. So thanks for driving down, Bethany. Bethany, hold up your hand.
I'll just add to what Dan said, and yes, we never refer to residents as prisoners. The relationship with team members is hugely important to us. Judd is a superstar at that. You know, we were talking this morning about management by walking around. A big part of his job is building that relationship, and you do that in face-to-face conversations with people, not through emails, not through text, not even through LinkedIn postings, as important as those are. You build them with face-to-face. Judd's excellent at that. I was talking with some of your team members this morning. Our job is to reassure them. You know, one thing I'm really proud of in this organization is we have a tremendous commitment to developing our team members. We have, you know, free undergraduate education available to all team members. We have graduate education available to team members. We have now 3 Good to Grow leadership development programs for emerging leaders, established leaders, senior leaders. Those programs are tremendously impactful. And the reason I mention that, where are you going? Yeah. don't you think that's your excuse to walk away? You see how he did that? I turn this way for a minute and Dan leaves the stage. we have a very strong and genuine commitment to growing our team members. And I think our own internal team members would tell you that is a really successful differentiating experience at Human Good, which is working very successfully, and we're always looking to expand that. So I hear you, and believe me, we are committed to our team members. Sharon, oh, I'm sorry, right.
The question was, are you going to be meeting with the team members? They have been every bit as distressed and concerned as we were. And it would be caring of you to take the time to speak to them.
So we will, Judd, you want to add anything there about team members? I will not be meeting them on this trip, but I will be meeting with team members on a return trip, and we will have different senior executives meeting with them as well. The most important meetings are going to be with Judd, with team members, both in group settings and in one-to-one settings.
You can meet with them when you have ice cream with them this afternoon, John.
Well, as long as there's ice cream involved, sure.
I just wanted to add, when you talk about educational programs, we have a grant here that the foster family has left. And so we have the Foster Family Education Fund, which the team members do take advantage of here. And I want to make sure everybody knows about that, including our new residents. But we also encourage them to supplement what we can give them with the Human Good grant scholarship.
Yep.
So it has come in very handy and helped several of our team
Yep.
members expand their education. And
Yeah, and I'll tell you the stories that I hear, and I was just at a Good to Grow graduation last week, which is a Good to Grow in this case for senior leaders. The stories of the impact of these programs on people's lives is just breathtaking. In one case, it's the first family member to ever get an undergraduate college degree. And she's talking about the fact that she's going back to her mother's grave in Mexico and leaving a copy of her degree on the tombstone, because her mother was a seamstress who put food on the table by sewing dresses for people. And her daughter is now a professional in an organization and having gotten a degree in that work. And, you know, we hear these stories all the time. And I think that whether it's actually LinkedIn or others, we need to do more promotion of those stories. Not we are in fact very committed to our team members. We embrace them fully and we want them to succeed. We know, as Dan said, we can't succeed with you if we don't first succeed with them. All right, so we got a bunch of hands in the air. I'm going to let Judd figure out who the mic goes to. I'll just turn to the microphone.
I just want to say thank you for accepting the responsibility. Management is the toughest job you can get. And you
Well, it
never,
feels that way this morning.
and you never win. And thank you for accepting the responsibility and describing how you're going to fix it. And I hope there are other people like I do that recognize that although we love Bradley tremendously, and he did a lot of things that were very good for us, we do not understand the entire situation. And that is the hard part of management. And management has to make a decision on the whole picture. And a lot of that we do not know, and we should never know. So thank you very much for coming to tell us what happened.
Thank you. I very much appreciate the comment. Oh, there we go.
I would like to continue with regard to the LinkedIn information. Dan, on your LinkedIn, it says that you're also EVP. I was wondering what E meant, but it looked like Executive Vice President. Are you the primus inter pares, the first among equal of the Vice Presidents? In what function are you talking here, as COO or as EVP?
Well, I'll answer that in part that Dan is the Chief Operating Officer for the company. So he is technically the number 2 officer in the company. But I'll answer that a little more fully. Dan and I have worked together for 14 years, and he is very much my partner in how we run this company. We make decisions jointly. There is not a day of the year that we don't talk, including when we're on vacation. So he and I work very much hand in glove in how we run the company.
So he is the real Vice President.
Sure. We'll call it that. I'll just call you the real vice president from now on.
Hi,
Yes.
I'm very emotional about this because I really love Bradley. We would have chats. We went through COVID with him. He would have to stay home because maybe his wife had COVID. We're not sure of who had it because again, they can't say anything. But we went through the birth of his child. He would come to community chat and show us pictures of his family. We had a Greek food festival here. He told me how much he loves spanakopita and I brought him some. So it's a real personal thing. And I want you to understand there's probably a lot of people who feel the way I do. And I appreciate what Bart said. I know you have a duty, but still, I want you to realize how hard it is.
Thank you for sharing that. I want you, sometimes when we get angry about something, it's because we think we're not being heard or we're being discounted or dismissed. And I want you to know you are being heard and it's not being discounted. I know how much Bradley meant to you individually and to you collectively as a community. And I want you to know Bradley meant a lot to us as well. We also liked him. Now, we didn't have the same relationship. Obviously, you did. He didn't. We just didn't have the same interactions with him. And I know those meant a lot to you individually and to you collectively. And as Dan and I were talking about last week, in a kind of ironic sense, you want this kind of reaction because you want our successful executive directors. You want people to build that relationship. It's not the whole job, but it's a critically important part of the job. And Bradley excelled at that. And we recognize that. And we're committed to helping all of our executive directors, including the person who will come in here, understand how important those relationships are and how traumatic it is for people when those relationships turn over and change. And sometimes they turn over because people get new opportunities and it's great for them. Sometimes they get promoted. Sometimes things happen and they don't, but we fully understand that. I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
I have a question, and that is, with the first letter that came out, it was poorly written, and well, we all know about that. My question to you is, if in fact there was any legal issues that came from that letter, would we be held responsible for the cost that it might incur? You don't know what I'm saying, I can tell.
No, I kind of do know what you're saying.
Okay.
Bethany, I'm not entirely sure how much I can answer here.
Well,
I can answer. I can answer that. I think, without getting in trouble, I can answer it and say, we apologize for how we communicated.
Yeah.
Okay. There is not going to be any we do not expect there to be any legal issues around it.
Okay.
And if there were legal issues, it would be handled at the corporate level by our legal counsel. Now, but remember, in truth, anything that gets paid for in this organization, whether it's here or it's in Santa Barbara or it's in La Jolla, gets paid for by the residents. So we don't hide behind that. The only source of revenue we have is you. Would it be directly paid out of here? I doubt it, but we expect there to be no further issues. Bradley's been very kind. I think I've communicated with him. John's communicated. We've communicated with him. He has resigned. We have made sure that he will remain a helper to us as we transition. We've made sure that it was a fair separation between the two, between him and the organization. So we do not expect there to be any further fallout from it. But thank you for asking the
well,
question.
thank you.
Questions, other questions? Someone's got a mic over there. Hello.
Yes, I think most of the anger here is not so much about communication, but the fact that we did not have a chance to say goodbye to Bradley.
And I just want to think this through for a second. We can generally, when these situations happen, we would generally offer someone the opportunity to have a reception. We could do that. He may or may not want to do it. I have a feeling he probably won't want to do it. He wrote a note to you guys. He's also sad about this, but he's being very professional. It was, like I said, we can't share all the details. It's a very difficult interaction and conversation, but we can certainly make that offer. So if he would choose to want to do something, then we could certainly arrange that.
I just wanted to say that the experience that we've had is that we have been disrespected and that Bradley was disrespected in that there's been no acknowledgement of his excellent service in terms of making money for the organization, in terms of the lowest retention rate in the group. And we want to see that he is respected for what he did do.
Absolutely, Flo. And he is being respected to the point where we're also willing to help him find other placement. So, and I know I've said it, this is probably the fourth time I say it, and I apologize, but I'm known for being very repetitious, is that we really try to make sure that every time we have a transition, that even though the communications did not work the way we would have liked them to work, we have to make tough decisions, but we also lean into our people to make sure people land on their feet. Bradley did a lot of great things here, and we appreciate that. There were other issues that we had to deal with, but for the most part, we will make sure that his transition goes as smoothly as possible. He's being very professional. We're working with him well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just echo Flo what Dan said. We're committed to ensuring that Bradley lands on his feet. He's a good guy. You know that. We know that, and he will end in a good place. Sharon.
This community is hurting, and I know that you are also hurting, that you were also fond of Bradley. And I think that the respect you have shown us by showing up here, the CEO and the COO of a corporation, to come to this community to help us heal, I think I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, sure, for that comment.
So John and I are going to mill around for a little while. I'm going to let John close this, but I just want to say a personal thank you. And my apology, what I ran out for was there was someone trying to get into my house and I had to push a button on my phone. I didn't want to do it up here. So, but I could tell because my phone and my watch were just exploding. So I had to run out. So I do apologize for that, but I'm also honest. So I want you to know why I ran out. I wasn't running away from John. Your being here today, team members, residents, board members, shows us how much you cared and care about Bradley and how much you care about the Terraces of Los Gatos. And we appreciate that very much. I want to say as the COO, because really, the question that this gentleman asked, am I the real vice president? No, I'm just one of many, but John and I do work in partnership. I consider myself his right-hand man, even though I'm standing on his left. We work very well together, and none of these decisions get made, regardless of who the messenger is, without it going through this level. We need to communicate better, and we will make sure we can share what we can share. But I'm the day-to-day guy, and when this happens, it breaks my heart. Okay, because this is my job, and these things don't happen without me being part of it. And John's part of it as well. But John's the visionary of the company. I'm the nuts and bolts guy, and that's why we work so well together. But with that being said, these decisions are not easy. And if they ever become easy for me, and if they ever become even a little bit pleasant for me, that is when I'll know it's time for me to leave. And I could say that for John and for others in this room. We do not take lightly to this stuff. And that's why we're willing to fly. I flew from Oregon, even though I live in San Diego. John flew from Los Angeles to make sure that we were going to be here today with you to answer and ask questions and share information with you. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. I know this was a little impromptu. Board members, thank you so much. Eric, Jody, everybody, thank you for being here. So I'm going to hand it over to John.
Danny, thank you. And yeah, I'll just echo what Dan said. This community and these relationships mean a lot to us. The relationships we have with our team members, critically important to us. And when we screw up, We admit it. We do what we can to fix it and we move forward. That's all we can do. And I'm grateful for your questions. I thank you for the respect you have shown us. And I hope you have felt that respect coming back to you because it is genuine. This is not the last time maybe the last time you see us together on this stage like this, but you will see both of us frequently in the days ahead. We are committed to getting this community back on its solid footing and moving in the right direction. And I hope you hear that and you know that is a personal commitment from Dan and from me and from all of us in leadership. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support of Judd and your team members and each other. And again, we will be here to mill around after this meeting and at lunch, and you will see us from time to time. Judd knows how to get in touch with any one of us. Many of you, of course, already have our emails. We know that. And you know what? That's great. And we love hearing from you. If you ever don't hear an answer, it's because both of us get 100+ emails a day and occasionally one slips through, but we do respond. We are available and we appreciate the support you've shown again for this community and we're committed.
And one last thing, I just want to introduce Eric, your board chair, your advisory board chair here. And Eric, maybe I think most of you know Eric, but if you could introduce the board members that are here.
Well, I'll start with myself. If you ever see me wandering around, you can always address me as well. We're here, I'm here, the board is here to support the executive director and all of you. And sometimes the executive director gets busy. But if you see Jody's around, Pam's around, we're all around periodically. But please address us. And if you need our contact information, we're happy to hand that out to you. Because we want to make sure, number one, you feel safe here. That's our goal. And any changes that have been going on since I'm going on my second year now of being chair regarding the gallery and all that, I'm on all those committees. So if you have questions, you can come up to me and ask, okay? Some of you I know personally on different venues, but you can always get in touch with me. And my name is Eric Eberly. And I've been in Los Gatos for 30+ years, born and raised. We used to do our bios to all of you guys, but actually I was born in Los Gatos Hospital. So I won't say how many years ago, but quite a few. But I'll let each of them just stand and introduce themselves.
I'm Mark Knutson, and I became an employee of the Terraces in 1992 and spent about 40 years here.
How do you do? I'm Jody Smith. I have been on your advisory board for 12 years, and I was chair for 9 of those years. I want to say one thing. I knew this organization when you were affiliated with ABHOW, American Baptist Homes of the West. I was the chair when we went through the affiliation with B Group and became Human Good. I put my full faith and trust in ABHOW and in Human Good. When Bradley left this community, I was shocked and saddened. I reached out to people that I have known for many years, people whose ethics and morals and competency I trusted 100%. I reached out to those individuals because they had deep knowledge of Human Good and ABHOW. I was reassured that this organization led by John and Dan was an ethical, moral organization with sound management principles. This is a sad time, but I put my trust 100% in Human Good. I remain on your board. I will continue to do that because not only do I love this community and the residents and the team members, but my husband and I just 3 weeks ago signed up to be on your wait list. So this was personal to me, personal because I love all of you and personal because I consider this my future home. I trust you. I put my trust in you. And thank you so much for coming to this community.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pam Bancroft, and you may know my mother, Mary Jane Bender, who lives in independent living here. I too, like Jody, am a longtime board member. I've been on the board, way over 12 years, and I was 2 years ago the chairperson of the board. I, like Mark, was a team member here as well, came to work in 1993, 4 months after the terraces opened, and I had Linda Price's job. I was sales, marketing, and community relations director. And I was here for 18 years and retired and still live in the area. So I too believe fully in human good. There are a lot of personnel issues that can't be discussed, but like Jody, I have complete faith in the decisions that have been made, and they are painful. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for all the time. And look, it's 10:59, so right on time. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, thank you. Good job.